Well, welcome everybody to Danita's Dreamy Watercolor Portrait class. We are so excited to have Danita here again teaching this class. So we're just going to go ahead and give it to you, Danita, and go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, how are you, everybody? So we are here again, and I'm going to teach this watercolor class. And as before, I want you to see first like the principles of watercolor before we beginning to our painting, because I think that if I just teach you the painting that we're going to make, you might be able to replicate it, but when you want to do your own thing, it's going to be a little bit hard if you don't know all the principles that I apply here. So before we do this, I know you want to go right over this one, but I want you to show you some things first. The first thing is, if you already take the class, you probably have your paintings like this, they're used, and you have the little paper that comes with it. You have it ready and painted, and you might have your other one that we made in class. But if you are new and you're just opening your paintings, I want to go over that really quick. So I have here another set. That is almost new. It comes like this. And in last class, we use the little paper that comes with it to make the swatches. And when I did this, I explained how different it was when you paint in one paper. Same pigments you use in one paper will be very different in another one. So I really think that it's very important that you swatch your colors in the paper that you're going to be using, especially if you got your block, and this has 20 sheets, so it will last you a while, and you want to see how the paints react to that specific paper. So if you already opened them, remember to kind of push a little bit this metal things, so they go there. When you open them, you just put them back, so they stay in place, and you're going to end up with something like this. What I did here is that I cut a little piece of a kitchen sponge, and I put it there because when I'm traveling or taking my watercolors outside the studio, I like to have something to be cleaning my brush or removing excess water. When I'm in my studio, I have a full-size sponge that I use. As you see, it's very dirty, but you just wash it and you can reuse it. I rarely wash it really because it's very absorbent. So the pigment stays there, but the water evaporates and you can keep using it. So I will have that on the side. And I have this one here. I have my brush. This is a Prima one. I also use this one. That is a Princeton Aqua Elite, and it's size 10. And it's like 3 times the size. This is a really good and cheap one if you want one that lasts a lot. I highly recommend that. And I also have paper towels. And what I do, let's pretend that we don't have that fill out. So I open them, and then in a piece of the paper that I'm going to use, if this were new, they would be blank, and I will be doing the same thing here and here. So what I do is that I put clean water. I like to have 2 water containers usually. And in one, I'm going to clean my brush, and that one will get really dirty very fast. And then in the other will stay cleaner, and is the one that we use to be wetting our paints, or when we want to do a clean mix, or like here, for example, that we just want to take water and put it there. And we just adding water to half the square. To make the square, I just take the same shape as this and divide it in 6 for the 6 pans that I have here and 6 below. So I put water and I take the first one and I put it there. Very concentrated, a lot of pigment. And then I try to bring it down and touch the clean water that I just put there and move it a bit. I do the same here. I put the water on one side, add the color on the other, and that will give you a pretty nice idea of the range of value that you can get with that color. So you see here, if you use the pure pigment, that is really dark, strong color, but here you get a very faint, like, I don't know, brownish, reddish, brownish color. And you do that with the rest of them. I usually skip one because when you're using watercolor, if this is wet and you put something near and they touch, the pigment will travel to the other color. The water always attracts the color. So I will skip that and make this one. Again, clean water. And then I put the blue. You can add a little bit at the top to try to make it stronger. I sometimes have a dropper with clean water because I live in a very dry place. So my watercolors dry really fast and I have to be adding water to them to be workable. So again, water and pigment. You see, you don't need to bring it down. There are some colors that are runny, so they touch the water and they go there. And there's some colors that stay put where you put them. You have to make them move with water, with your brush. Like this one, I kind of make it move. It doesn't want to, but you just like bring it with the point of your brush. Oops. I always have kitchen towels near in case I make a mistake. Here I put the water on top, so I just remove it. And you never erase like this on watercolor paper. You always push your kitchen towel there and lift. And that's it. Because watercolor paper is very delicate. And if you do that, since you already have water there, you are going to move the fibers and you're going to ruin it. So again, this one doesn't want to move, and I move it just with the tip of my brush. I always do that with all my colors. It doesn't matter the brand, because you get to know your pigments and the things that they do, how they move, how they interact with each other, and how they change depending on the paper that you're using. For example, in the paper that comes with the kit, it's a really soft paper and you barely see any granulation. You see a stain of paint. But here, let me put there for comparison. Do you see that? It moves differently and it even looks a little bit different in color here and there. It doesn't look much in camera, but you're going to see it when you do it in both, and you can compare. There are also pigments that are really faint. No matter how much pigment you put, it's not a strong color. And there are some like this one that you barely touch it and it's dark. So keep in mind that too, especially when you're making mixes. When you see me moving my hand out of the screen, it's because I'm dipping it in water and then cleaning it in the sponge. And then come back here with clean water.
So when did you start painting, Danita?
About 15 years ago, when my daughter was born. I was telling you before that I started painting because I wanted to do ceramics, and there was nowhere I could learn. So I started taking another classes. I love painting too, so I did that and started like jumping from one medium to the other because I couldn't find one that was like my medium. And watercolors at the beginning, I didn't know all that I'm going to teach you now. So I just painted and I really never liked the result because I couldn't control it. It was easier in mixed media or acrylics or even oil. But with watercolors, it was just something missing. But now that I know all the, like the technical stuff, the boring stuff, if you want, it's so much easier to paint and I enjoy it a lot. I think it's one of my favorite mediums now. So that's the result. You see, and they're going to change when they're dry. I remember in the other class that I could use my heat gun. I'm going to try it now because it didn't sound. Can we try it? And that's our color chart. I just cut that and put it like this one. Put it in my palette. Fits there. I usually put it with the other. If you use different papers, you might want to do that for each paper that you use so you have it on hand. You don't have to do it every time that you're going to paint. So questions up to here?
I think everybody's too busy enjoying watercolors.
Okay, this is really simple and I like it. I think it's fun and relaxing. What I also do, and that's another really important step, is a chart like this. And this one, you have it on the page, you can download it. We're going to be referencing many colors here while we make our painting. And to make this one, it's really easy, but it's very time consuming. So I like this 12 by 12 paper for these paints because they're 12. So I just make a grid like in the kitchen shows. I already have my grid done. So I just divide it in 12 and 12 and make the grid. And we are not going to make the whole thing. I'm just going to show you very quickly how to do it because it's the same thing. You just have to do it over and over and over. So in the first, we start with our pure color, that in this case will be 97. And we just fill it. So you have it there. And then you combine it with the next. So that will be 97. And then you clean your brush and take some 98 and mix it. Try to mix it so it's an even mix. Sometimes the color, if it's too strong, like the blue, and you mix it with the green, you barely see the difference. So you add a little bit of blue and a lot of green. So you have a change there. For example, this one. And I will put it there. The straight mix. And then that mix, I will add a lot of water to it. And I will put it below. That way you get your mix in a darker form, in a lighter one, and you get that variation that we have here. It's the same color, but this is darker and this is lighter. That way you end up with something like this. Like this one, for example, that is really dark. When you mix it with the next one, you get a really dark green, but with a lot of water, you get a light green. You do the same here. In watercolor, we don't add white, we add water. That's the way that we lighten our paint. So the next one will be again that color. And then you will mix it with 99. And that will give you that. And then you add a lot of water to it. And then we'll be there. And you do that with all the colors until you feel up to here, and then with all the colors until you feel there. So that, for example, the last one will be the mixture of 97 plus 108. That over here will be 108. By the time you're here, you don't have to mix anything because you already mixed everything here. And on the other side will be that mixture with a lot of water. And you will end up with a diagonal with all the colors as they are. You can see here. In this case, this is 97, 108, and that's the combination between the two of them. And you can also notice that it doesn't matter if you're mixing the two colors, you will always end up with different results because the mixture is not exact. Like in this one, I use a lot more green than in this one. So if I want a color like that, I need to add more green. But even if it's not an exact science, it gives you the idea of what colors you can make with the palette that you have. And this one is a pre-mixed color palette. So if you see here in your chart, the one that came with the palette, it says pigments, it says PR11, PR484, and PBK7. That means that you have 3 colors here that make this color. The next one also have 3, and then this one has 2. So the more you mix these colors with each other, the muddier they will be, and they will be like more towards a brown because they're always mixed. If you will take a pure single pigment, like for example, I have this other palette here, and this single pigment, I have the opportunity to mix it with another to make a secondary color, with 2 more to do a tertiary color, and so on and so forth. But the more I mix it, the more I will lean towards these colors here. There are some people that really enjoy muddy colors. I personally do. I love this palette, but there are some people that loves the pure pigments, and they're more like purple and let me see here. And instead of getting more towards these like reddish orange or yellow orange like we have here, they enjoy more like the red and the orange and the green, and that's it. Like more pure colors. In that case, I recommend you get one more basic palette, like the one, I think there's one that is called Classics, and they have that like red and yellow and blue, very basic pigments that you can mix more. Let me show you. This one, for example, these are more pure pigments, and as you can see, you get so much brighter combinations. And these are like 20 something, so gives you a lot more than this one that is just 12. But you can still make your browns and make the ones that I enjoy that are like the dirty greens and blues and pinks. See, from all these, I think the most that I like the most are these, but it depends a lot on the colors that you like. By making mixtures, you might find out a new color that you really love that you didn't even know that you like it. Like, for example, I always say I don't like purples, but when I was mixing my palettes, I realized that I do like purples. What I don't like is cool purples like this one here, but I really love like more muted ones, like this one, or in this case, this one that I really love. So it's really a matter of personal preference. But for you to get to know the colors and to have the reference, you have to do your own and really experiment with what you like. And if you like more, for example, if you're mixing these ones and you don't enjoy green so much and you like more this one, maybe add less so you end up with a color more like this than the greenish. So it's totally up to you. But I highly recommend making one of these when you have time. We are not going to do the whole thing because it takes forever and we take up all our time. You have it in your page. You can download it and have it for reference there. You can also print it. It will be the exact same colors, but it will be pretty much close to this. I tried to scan it as close to this one as possible, but sometimes the printers and the screens change a little bit the colors.
Danita,
Yes.
Nina's asking you to explain the middle colors again. She said, I understand the edges, but can you explain the middle colors?
These ones?
I'm guessing that's what her question is, yes.
These are the pure colors.
Pure colors.
These in the diagonal are the pure colors, and I even added the numbers here, 97, 98, 99, up to 108. And here will be the combination of 97 plus 98. You have it here. Then with water, you have it over there. Then the next one will be 97 plus 99. That's your color. This one will be 98, but by 99. And then if you add water, it goes here. I don't know if that explains it.
Does that help, Lenine? She said, yes, that makes.
Okay. It looks a little bit complicated, but once you start painting, you see that it's just, it's like multiplying this by this, this by this. Then you fill out with color instead of the results. So if anybody has any questions about this?
I think that was it, Danita. You can go ahead and go on.
Okay. So the next thing that I want you to learn before we move to our painting is kind of the basic ways that you can manipulate watercolors. And there's one that is called dry on dry. There's wet on dry, wet on wet. And that is just a different way to apply watercolors with water or without it that will give you very different results, and you're going to see it here. So the first is dry on dry. That means that your paper is dry, your brush doesn't have much water. It always have to be damp, but not wet. So it's not dripping, see, it's just damp. Try to remove the excess on the paper or the sponge, and then you take a pigment. In this case, I'm going to be using 103. And as you can see, you get texture. It looks kind of acrylic paint.
Is there a best size brush to use?
I love to use number 10 because it's not too big, not too small, and it has a nice point. But also this one, I like it too, the number 6, depending on the things that you make. If you work large, a larger brush will be better. If you work small, sometimes a brush like this one will be too big. So depends on the size that you're working. For this paper, I love the number 10. But I usually work smaller. So number 8 is a good medium between the two of them. So that's, yes.
Dry. Can you do the dry again?
Yes, it's just damp brush, no wet, remember, it's not dripping, see? No water there, just damp. And then you take the watercolor, and then you just brush. Doesn't matter the way that you do the brush strokes. Like if you were wanted to do grasses or texture, see? It looks like acrylic and it's really concentrated. The pigment is really dark. It has to be dry. It's very important. That will be dry on dry. Then wet on dry. For that, paper is dry, but your brush and your pigment is wet. So you add water. See, it's kind of, I don't know, drippy, see? And when you apply it, you can move it. It looks really different, this and this. Even if I do the same brush strokes, like I do this, because it has so much water, it leaves a different mark. So that's one that we're going to be using a lot. And this one too, this one is called wet on wet, and that means that your paper needs to be wet and your paint too. So I apply water. You don't want to go overboard with the water here. You want your paper to be shiny, but you don't want pull. Do you see that? But you don't want the water pooling there. And then you take your pigment and you can put it there, and it behaves really different than this and this. See, you can put dots. Let me just add more water here. to do the same things that here. That will move everywhere because it's already wet. Here it stays when you put it because the paper was dry. And this looks really like rough because everything was dry. Wet in wet can also be used combining two colors. So for example, if I first paint a layer of 101, and then I add some 103, it will give me a different result than if I painted on clear water. The pigments will combine, and it also will extend. If you try to do that, for example, here, you will have to wait until this is dry and then put it on top. See the difference? This is also a way to mix colors. There are some ways to mix colors in watercolors, and the first one is like we did in the chart here. When you take two pigments or three or any number you want, and you mix them on the palette. For example, I'm going to be using the same colors to have consistency here, and you can see the results. So I mix them in my palette and I apply them. So I get a green. But I can also mix it by putting first this one, letting it dry, and then mix the other on top. So that would also give me a green, but it looks little bit different than this one because this was pre-mixed, and I make sure to mix everything really well. And this is more like an optical mix because it's like you put glass, because it is transparent. It's like you put two glasses with different colors, one on top of the other, and you get that result. The other thing that you can do is like a gradient when you apply one pigment in one side, and then while this is still wet, you apply the other, and you let them mix there. You can move a little bit the paper, try to make the pigment move. And see, you keep the two colors, and then you also get the mixture in the middle. So any questions up to here?
It doesn't seem like anyone has any questions.
No?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the next thing that you want to do with your colors is a value scale. So you can see how, like, it's not how many colors because it's the same color, but how many values as is in how dark or light your color might be. There are some colors like the green that I was explaining at the beginning that is not really dark, so it doesn't matter how much pigment you put, it's really a light color and you cannot make it as dark as this in value. Value is how dark or how light your color is. So with 107 or 103, you will get a lot of values because it will go from very dark until really light. But with 108, maybe you can make, I don't know, maybe 10. So let's do that. Because you're going to use value a lot in the painting. It's not the same here that is really dark that here that is really light. So that's a mixture with a very light value, and this is a mixture with a very dark value. And that will give you the depth and the three-dimensionality to your painting. So for that, again, let me just clean this really quick. So you take your pigment, and that will be like your value number 1. That is the darkest that you can make with that color. Then to that, you add water. And then you have a slight lighter value. Then you add a little bit of water. Then you add a little bit more. A little bit more.
Danita, Lenine would like to know, how often do you clean your water?
I have 2 recipients, and I have one, like this one, is already very dirty. And I have the other one that is clean, because I dip it in the dirty one to clean it, and then I take water from the clean one. So that way I don't have to be changing the water too often. Or if you have a big bucket of water, that will make it last cleaner longer. And I also try to first remove the excess on here and then clean it in the dirty water and then take from the clean water. Like for adding here, I'm taking from the clean one. Each time that I add, but I clean it in the other one. The watercolor pigments are so strong. That's why they come in such little containers. Because look, I still have pigment there in my palette. Let's see, can you see it? And I already made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 values. And you can still see that this is blue. See, from the darkest to the light. And this is the way that you get a lighter color. We do not use white here. The white is the paper, and the way that you see them lighter is by adding more water. Adding more water makes them more transparent, and that reflects more the light of the paper, and you see a lighter value here. If you were using acrylics, you will add white and more white and more white until you end up with a very light blue. Not here. So any questions? You want me to do another one so you see the difference with one of the lighter ones?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to use the green one, the 108. That is one of the lighters. So that's full strength. If you see, we can place it around here. Imagine that this is in black and white. If I put everything in black and white, you immediately see that these two are not alike. So this value corresponds more with I think, a value like this. So that color, when I start adding water to it, will be light very soon. And each color is different. There are some that you can really go longer with them. And there are some that you make 4 mixes or 6 and you're done. But here you can barely see it now. And it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 compared to 20 something over here. So that's the way that you make a color lighter. And we are going to be using that a lot here. Because you will be amazed that sometimes a color like this can also give you a color like this. That it might be the same one. But this is a very dark value like this. And this one, same color, goes over here. And it's just by adding water to it. It's the only difference. If you don't have any more questions about any of these.
I don't think so. I think you can go ahead and go on.
Okay, so that's the intro, and now we're going to start our painting.
Oh, wait, Lenine says, let me see. I think she's typing. I'm not seeing anything.
No?
Oh, let's see. Okay, so when you're adding water, do you dip the brush twice in the dirty and the clean? Oh, so I think what she's asking is when you're adding water to your color, how do you go about the process? Because we can't see your palette right now.
Oh, let me see. I think this is going down.
There we go. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was falling down.
Sorry about that.
When you start with your greatest, your deepest value, and then you're going to move to the next square over, what do you do? Do you dip it in the water and then onto your palette, or how are you?
Yeah.
How do you make the color lighter?
Do you see the 2 containers there?
We see the clean water. Yeah, okay. Yes, we can see them both.
So this is the clean, this is the dirty, and this is my sponge. What I do is that I clean it first in the dirty water, and I remove the excess here. So I take clean water and I add it like to the blue and put it there. And then since I already have blue pigment in there, a little bit, but it's something, I clean it in the dirty water. I remove it in the sponge. I take clean water and I add it to the pool again. And then that I paint. Same thing. Remove the excess, take from the clean one, add it here, and
She
then
said,
paint.
got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any more questions?
I think that was it. Oh. She just said it was not working for her before. So now it'll work now that she knows what to do. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, because if you're dipping with the dirty water, especially if that water had already another pigment, because sometimes it's just like, this is blue dirty water. So you adding a little bit, but if you already have yellow on it and red, you're adding a little bit of those pigments, and in a mixture like that, it shows. So you end up with a very weird color that doesn't look at all like the one at the beginning. So it's very important. I always recommend having two.
Okay, I think you can go on now, Danita. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. So if you have questions about this, you can always ask me and we go back. Let's see. The thing is, let me just adjust this a bit because I think that is falling.
Yeah, it keeps going back down to where it was before. And Lenine says, thank you for taking the time to explain watercolors.
Oh, no problem. I really believe in teaching properly the basics, because with that you can go on and make your stuff. If you only know how to make like this and that's it, it's really hard to try to do your own thing. Okay, hopefully this stays. If it starts dropping, please let me know, because I'm not looking.
Okay, that's not a problem. We could do that.
Okay. So now you must have a page like this with your printed girl. That is going to be the template. If you are going to draw your own, please don't draw it on the watercolor paper. Watercolor paper is very delicate. Even if it takes a lot of water and looks rough, it is not. And it has like that texture that you can feel on it. If you, for example, take a hard eraser, if you erase something, you draw and you don't like it, and then you erase it, some of that texture will be removed. And when you apply color on top, it will show. It will look really different than the other parts. And it shows even more when it dries. So please do all the adjustments, the changes, anything you want to do to your sketch. And then when you're ready, then you transfer it to the paper.
Lisa says, you are a great teacher. Everything is finally making sense to me.
Oh, thank you. I just wish I could speak more fluently. It will be so much easier. But thank you for having patience with me.
You are doing an amazing job, Danita. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you. So, what was it? Oh, okay. Do everything on your paper. I just use regular printing paper for that. And then you can use a light box to transfer if you have your paper like this that is already removed from the block. But I love blocks like this because they come glued on the sides. And when you start applying a lot of water to the paper, it kind of buckles. So that glue on the sides keep it on place and kind of make it flat. So I don't recommend you removing it and using a light box. If you were using just sheets of paper, that would be no problem. But in this case, I prefer to use either this is saran paper. It's just a transfer paper. I don't like carbon paper for watercolor because it stains, but this one, I like it a lot. I have been using it for lots and lots of paintings and it still works. If you don't have that, you can use just a regular paper. Again, I love to use red if I'm painting a portrait because it mixes really well with the paint. You barely see it. If you're using just a regular graphite pencil, you can smudge a little bit of the graphite when you're painting. So I recommend just a red one. I like this one that is kind of thick because it's easier for me to just apply it in the background. You can see here. Everywhere that you have a drawing, you just paint. And then I already have most of it transferred here. I just leave a little bit so you can see it. You can add if you don't want it to move and you want to be checking if it transfer, you can add a little bit of masking tape or washi tape there. You can transfer it with anything, pencil or pen, a mechanical pencil. It will give you a different line. So a mechanical pencil will give you a very thin line and a regular pencil, a thicker one. I'm going to demo here. So that's the transfer with a mechanical, with a regular pencil. And then this one that has a very thin line, thin point, I mean, will give you a thinner line. Like that. If I were not doing this for a demo, I will choose the thinner line possible. The less I could see, the better. But in this case, I want you to see the drawing. So I'm going to choose the pencil. Be careful because since you added color to all the paper, sometimes when you put your hand, you can transfer color like I did here or here. So what I do is after I have everything in place and remove that. And then I take a kneaded eraser, make sure that it's clean, and then remove all that excess. And again, if it was for me, I will remove as much as possible so you can barely see it. Sometimes what I do is that I make like a roll shape, and I just roll it all over so it picks up most of the pigment like this. So I can barely see it. Or you're able to see my drawing?
I can barely see it, but my screen is a little bright as well. There are
Okay,
certain parts better.
I'm going to go over with.
I think you're okay.
I want you to see where I'm painting.
Lisa
because
said
I
barely see it. Yeah.
yes. Let me go over it and please don't use a water soluble pencil for that, because as soon as it touches the water, it's going to bleed.
So what kind of pencil are you using?
Just a regular one. This is a Lyra Color Giant, but any red will do, any brand, it doesn't matter. I just like it to be red because when you paint over it, like in this one, you don't see it and it doesn't contaminate the colors. And if they do, since the colors in the skin are already like reddish, it doesn't show as much. Do you see it better there?
Much better, yes.
Okay, I'm going to leave the burst like that because they're going to be a flat color. Here is going to be very different than here. So I want you to focus on this first.
And Lisa says yes as well, that's better.
Okay, so if you're ready, let's begin. So the first thing that we're going to do is wet on the face. And I will be having my chart on hand so I can see more or less which colors I would like.
Lenine says not ready. Sorry.
Excuse me?
Lenine says that she's not ready. I think they're still tracing. So go ahead and explain the colors.
So depending on the color, the skin color that you want for your girl, you are going to pick from this. That's where the reference comes in hand. Because if you want a light skin color, you probably want to go and pick something like, I don't know, this one or this, no, that's too yellow. This one or this one, even this one with a lot of water. If you have a color like mine that is more brown, maybe you want to go for this or this. If you have a very dark skin color, you can go all the way to this side. So depending on the one that you're making, you can choose more or less which one fits better the idea that you have in your mind. We're painting a, I will say fair skin because she has blue eyes. So probably one of these will work. And we are going to work in layers. So the final color that you see here is not the one that we're going to start with. In watercolor, it's so much better to start light and then build on top than to go dark since the beginning, because it's so hard to remove and to correct. So for example, if you want a color like this, I don't know if you can see, but there's is a lighter color and there's another color and there's another one. And this was built with many layers of color like we did here. So we apply color, let it dry, apply color, let it dry, apply color, let it dry until you get the exact color you want. And also because we're not painting a flat face, we are giving it dimension. So you need some darks on the sides and some dark here. So you see the nose and here. So you know that there's the head on top of the neck. It always casts a shadow. It's very different that we are going to paint here on the birds. So layers and layers until you get the one that you like. You don't start by painting the front and then immediately the cheeks and the eyes and everything, because also remember that watercolors tends to go where there's the water. So if you start applying this blue, for example, and then you add color here, the blue will bleed and you will end up with blue all over here. Same with this. So you have to be a little bit patient. Once you get more practice, you can skip some of the steps and you know more or less which colors to apply, and maybe you can work faster in several places at a time. But for this, we're going to go step by step. So I'm going to clean my palette again. And remember that there's always a stage in which you think you ruined your painting and it's awful and ugly. It happens to everybody. It happens to me. Suddenly you see it and you're like, what did I do? It was perfect. But then you continue working on it and then you realize that it was a necessary step. So don't freak out. Are you ready?
Okay, Lisa says she's ready.
Okay. So first thing, you decide which color you want it. Again, if you already know your palette and you're working more intuitively, that's because you already know your colors. So you have a color in mind and you more or less know how to mix it. But at the beginning, it's better to just come here and see which color you would like to start. So for me, I think this one will be nice as a base. So that's 98 plus 106. So that's what I mix. 98 plus 106. And it looks a lot darker than I wanted. So I add a lot of water to it. And I forgot to mention this, but it's really useful to have a scrap piece of paper, the same paper that you're using for your painting, because remember that it changes a lot depending on the paper that you're using. So what I do, sometimes what I do is that I place my painting here and I draw a line and I use this side to make all the swatches and the combinations and test my paints. But here I'm putting it in the middle, so there's no space for that. And what I do is that I take a little bit of that paper that we use. Now we have it there. So I can test the color. Like this one. See, the one that I mix is too red, so maybe I will add a little bit of yellow to it. Then I mix it, I test it again, and still too red. And I like it more. So once that you have a base color, we're going to do our first layer, and that's wet on wet. And for that, I'm gonna add water to the face, including the eyes.
Oh, I should have the eyes last time.
All the way to the neck. And I'm not being like very precise and going exactly in the lines. I don't care about that because this is going to be really dark, so it will cover everything. So to that, I'm going to add my color. Again, I'm not worrying about the eyes because the eyes, I don't know the exact name. The white of the eyes is not really white. And it looks a really bit weird when you leave it completely white. Like it's not natural. So it's better to have a little bit of that first color just to give it like a tint to it. And at the end, with a little bit of acrylic or a white paint, we can just add the highlights. So that's the first one. Really light. See? And
Lenny,
I just,
question. She was
yes.
asking if you put water on the paper first, and I told her yes. All of Lenny, including the eyes.
Yes. And remember, don't let it pool. You want to add water in the same way that you will add the watercolor. You just want it to be shiny, and then you add the color on it. You don't want it to be pooling because that, let me show you. So if I add water, see that is shiny? And I add color to it. It blends nicely. But if I add water too much, and then in some parts there's too little and then pulling there, and then I add the color, you will end up with those, see the difference? Like pulling, and sometimes it is even worse and you end up with something like this. And when it dries, it really shows. So you don't want a patchy face. That's what you want, to apply the water in an even way. See, you get those pulls. Let me dry it so you see.
Well, I know. Oh, Tracy's Kansas. That's a perfect explanation. Thank you, Danita.
You're welcome. See, that's the difference. When this dries, it's not as patchy I did it really fast here. You can see when I went up and down. But here you get all kinds of texture and colors. So you don't want that in your face. You want it to be like, especially at the beginning, you want to be the wash as flat as possible. Besides, when you make pools, they take forever to dry, even you use the heat gun. So now we're going to do a step that everybody freak out, and it's adding green in the areas where it's going to be a shadow. I'm going to be using the 104 for the green. One of the things that I've learned over the years is that we have a lot of green in our skin. If you see your hands, for example, you see the veins, they're green. And if you see your face, you have a lot of green on it too. So it looks more natural to add shades in green than to add them in other color. So what I do is that I try to add some green in the places where shadows will be. Right here, and around the nose, and under the nose, maybe on the sides of the lips, and over here on the neck. And also here, what is the hair? And then I clean my brush, and when it's damp, I just try to make that edge not as hard. So I removed some of that pigment and I put it in my sponge. Instead of adding pigment, I'm removing pigment.
What number grain did you use?
It is 104. If you want the ice green, you can go ahead and paint them right now since you are already using the green. But if you want another color, then leave them like that. We have to let that dry. If you have a heat gun, it's really useful. Just don't go really close to it. If you don't, just let it dry naturally. You know when it's dry without touching it? Because it's not shiny anymore. If it's shiny, it's because it's still a little bit wet. So next, once this is dry, we are going to use the same mixture that we use for the base, but this time we are not going to add so much water to it. And we're going to go over some of those shadows. And I'm going to do the same thing. I don't want the line to show as I added a line. I want more of a subtle change between colors. That in watercolor is called a soft edge. And when you do a color that is like here, for example, that's a hard edge. You see exactly where it ends and where it begins. But here, you don't know exactly where. That's what we're trying to do here. You do that with clean water and a damp brush. Again, it's not wet, it's damp. So I put it in water, clean water, remove the excess, and with that, I move the pigment. Because if I add a lot of water, I'm going to put a splash of water then and the pigment will run.
I'm sorry, Danita. What color mixture are you doing right now? It was for the face. Do you remember?
It was 97 plus 106. I usually make a big pool at the beginning and then I start getting that because I make it darker and then I put it over here and I add water to this and I keep the mixture here. So it's better to make a bigger pool at the beginning so you don't have to be mixing it.
Thank you.
Welcome. If you paint where you're not supposed to or you don't like it, put water on it and just press with your paper towel and lift. Remember, do not do this. I think this is dry enough to add a little bit more. Oh, I added a little bit of 101, remember? Two. So I'm going to make a big one. Yes, it was 97, 106, and a little bit of 101. So it's not that red.
Thank you.
So that we're going to mix with a little bit of green. It was the 104. And try it on the side. You will get kind of a gray, like a greenish gray. That's very good for these lines over here that you want like to divide the nose from here and the eyes. So I'm going to put it on the upper lip, eyelid, and then here and below. And then I'm going to make a slightly darker one for the neck. you kind of keep adding darker and darker and darker values until you get satisfied with the result. Sometimes when you add a color, there's another thing in color theory. Color is very relative. Sometimes you see a color and you think that is dark, but when you place it next to a very dark one, this one that you thought that it was dark goes really pale. So while we're working, as we add other colors, we're going to need to adjust, because this might look right now, but then when we add the hair that is really dark, she's going to look like a ghost because it's so pale right now. Even though if you added, I don't know, a pale yellow hair, she doesn't, it's going to look, you won't be able to see the difference as much as when you add a dark color. And since this is going to have a dark hair, we are going to go with some more layers later after we paint the hair.
Okay, Lenina's asking, are you using the same colors, just darker? So can you go over really quick what you're doing, how you're layering again?
Yes, first I added pure water. To that water, I added a mixture of 97 plus 106 and a little bit of 101. That's the mixture that I have here. I painted a flat wash with that mixture with a lot of water, so very diluted. Then I let it dry and I added 104, that is the green, everywhere that you see a shade. Then let that dry, and then I added the same mixture that I made at the beginning, but with less water. That gave me those darker values there. And it's the only thing that I've been making is cleaning my brush. It's damp, and I just try to soften those edges. So every time that I add paint, it doesn't look like, let's see here. You don't want this, that you add a layer and then you add a loaded layer and then you add a loaded another and then you add green. You don't want that. You want to add one layer and then soften the edge. Let that dry, then add another layer. And again, try to soften that. The idea here is that you don't end up with lines on top of lines. You get with a blend of colors that by the end, you don't know which ones are which. That's what we're doing here. See, we have like 3 or 4 layers. She looks kind of dead now because of the colors, but it's already has green and has a little bit of, this one looks like, I don't know, pinkish, and here looks really clear. So you want to let it dry between steps, and you want to soften the edges.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. So before we keep working on the face, I want to add the first layer on the hair, because that will change a lot how I see here. For the hair, you want to be really mindful of the edges. And you need to be sure that the face is really dry, because if it's a really, even a tiny bit damp, when you add the dark color, it's going to bleed all the way here. I'm going to show you here first. If I have this is damp, actually. If I paint the hair here, let's see, not that damp. This is a little bit damp and it's already moving. This is more. So if I paint the hair here that is really dark, it's going to do this to your face. So you don't want that. You don't even want that. So you have to make sure that it's really dry like this, that is really dry. And if I paint next to it, the paint stays there. So you want to make sure that the paint that you have here is really dry. Just in case, I'm going to dry it a little bit. And for the hair, I want a really deep brown. So I can choose from here. That is my darkest ones. So it might be 104 plus 97. So let's try that one. And for the hair, I'm going to make a bigger pool of color because you need a lot more and it won't be as diluted as the skin. So we said 104. Maybe a little bit more green. Yes. You might even try two different ones. Let's see. I like this one too. 106. There's 106 and 104 too. So this one was 104 and actually it's the same as this one, but with a lot of pigment. See, that's what this is really important. It can give you the lightest values and also give you the darkest, but it's the range of color that you want. So I'm choosing that, and I'm also doing, let's say 106 plus 104. That will be there.
So are you doing them both at the same time, Danita? The 104 and 97 and 104 106?
Yeah, I'm mixing two.
Okay.
So I don't get just a flat color for the hair. So I can add a little bit of one on the other. So I'm going to do the same thing as on the face, and it's a wet on wet, but this time I'm going to mind the edges. The first one was just like all over the place. We didn't mind, but this one we do mind. Because it's really dark color. We don't want it to bleed in the face. This is just clean water. And then I put the color. See how it bleeds, but only where there's already water. If it's no water, it stops, like here. I'm going to be adding a little bit of the 104, the green. Just to give it a little bit more of texture to the hair. Doesn't look flat all over. And I take from one and from the other and just let them mix on the paper. I wanted you to try all the techniques in one painting. That's why it's like this. Because sometimes we use one and one only. And using several gives you a little bit of variety in your work. And also you never know when you're going to fall in love with a new technique. Or when you see a painting and you see, you think, how do they do that? It's like, I painted and it doesn't look like that. And now we know that is, you're going to be able to recognize when it's wet on wet or wet on dry. Other thing to have in mind is that when you do the wet on wet technique and it dries, it will look lighter than when it's wet. So the colors that you see in here is not the colors that you're going to end up with. Here on the bottom should be darker, so I'm adding more pigment there. And that's the first layer. So if it doesn't look like you intended to at the beginning, we can always work on top. So any questions up to here?
It doesn't look like there's any so far.
Okay. Well, this dries. You have questions?
So when you were adding the colors for the hair, did you put them in any particular location? Like, did
I
you
tried to, sorry?
go ahead?
Sorry, I didn't get the last part.
Oh, no, that was it. It was just when you're adding the 106, 104, and the 104.97 mixture. Was there a particular order that you were adding them to the hair, or were they just mix match wherever?
I just tried to get the darker values on the bottom and the lighter on top. Because light is always coming from the upper part. Even if you're inside or outside, doesn't matter. Light comes from above. So it hits here first. That will be lighter and this will be darker. does the same reasoning here. This will be a darker shadow that you will have here because this object is in top of the other, the head on top of the neck. So I try to get this darker and this lighter for the same reason. You can even add a little bit of water, not too much, damp brush. But if you add water there, you are going to force the pigment to move a bit. And you give it a little bit of highlights there. And then you get the, how do you call where your hair starts growing?
The part where your hair parts.
Yeah, that's a little bit darker. And then the rest lighter, and here it becomes darker.
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome. And now that we added that part, you see that she looks way too white. But you won't know that until you add this, because at the beginning it might look right. So now we have to let that dry. I'm going to speed it. So now that she's getting more finished, I can get a better look at the skin color. And I think that she looks way too pale. So I would like to add something like this, or yes, one of those will work for the cheeks. And before the cheeks, I think an overall wash just to make her skin tone a little bit more alive. So I'm thinking this here, maybe this one. This is 101 plus 97. So let's try that one. Yeah.
Your camera was falling down again, Danita. Can you pull it back up?
Oh no, sure.
There we go.
I think it's too heavy for this. Is that okay?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
Okay. I was just mixing over here, trying to get this color. So I'm adding 97 plus 101 in different ratios. If it's, I try it here, if it's too yellow, I add a little bit of 101. And if it's too red, then I add a little bit of 97. I think I like that one. So again, it's a very light wash just to change the skin tone to a warmer color. And it goes like the first one, but without water. So that will be wet on dry because the paper is dry. and what we're adding is really wet. And now I like it a lot better. She looks alive now because she kind of look a little bit dead. So on that, I don't know if you have red in your palette. Did you ask for red? Jamie?
Whatever is in the palette itself is all that they got, is all that they received. And we didn't change the list.
Okay, if you have additional watercolors and you happen to have a red on it, you can use that. And if not, you can use the 97 or the 105. That in this case will be our reds. Or maybe adding a little bit of 101 to 97.
They got a red if they took Alyssa's class. Thank you, Tracy. And Lenine.
Oh, if you all have it, it will be much easier. Any red that you have, just have to be red. And you just need a tiny bit because red is really powerful.
We can't see, Danita. What are you using the red for?
I'm just trying to get a mixture here for the cheeks. So I'm trying to make a red or a reddish. In case you don't have red, if you have red, that's perfect. But if you don't, then maybe mixing, let's see, 101 plus 97 or 102 plus 97 will give you like a warm red for the cheeks. That's what we used in the last class. You won't get as bright cheeks like with the red, but still will look pretty nice. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I think that's nice. So for that step, if this is already dry, you might want to add a very light wash of clean water and then add that red mixture, just a tiny bit, don't go overboard. Remember that you can always add another layer later. And you can also add a little bit on the nose and then the mouth. And with the point of your brush, actually it's better the other one that is thinner. You do it around the eyes. And at this point, you start seeing it more alive and taking shape. And on top of that, you add a little bit more while it's wet. You let it dry a little bit and then you add a little bit more if you think that it needs more. But little by little. That way it bleeds and you don't end up with a round or a triangle in the face. Looks like the rest of the face that you don't know where everything starts and ends. Because in faces, you don't have like hard edges. You don't see, I don't know, you don't see a round thing in your cheeks. You just see them blush and then difuminate on the sides. So that will dry lighter. I can add a little bit more. And I started adding everywhere. Now I'm just adding in the middle. Since this is wet, it will spread. So just that. And a little bit there because it's still damp. If you like it like that, you let it dry. And if you think that it needs more, then you keep adding more little by little. I'm going to dry that. Now that it's dry, you can see the difference between the wet and the dry. It looks a lot more, oops. It looks like less bright and more natural. We can keep working on it. Now in the nose, I like to add a little bit on the nose too. And on the mouth, but it is dry now. So when I put it, it will stay. And here I'm just trying to blend it with the rest. You don't blend it as easily when it's dry than it's wet. It is wet. And while I leave this drying, I'm going to paint the eyes. For the eyes, I did a little demo the last time. Let's see. With a color that you can see well. So for the eyes, you have the upper eyelid and then the lower, and you have a bump there. And then you have something like that. And again, this is in top, so this will cast a shadow here. So this area is always darker than the rest. And this will be lighter. So if you want your eyes to look 3D, you need to add more pigment on top and less on the bottom. And then this, you have, this is a shadow and these two, the same here. This is light. And inside, you also have a shadow. So you don't really get the white things. Hold on. You have something like this. Then here you have a darker value than here. And then here you have the, it's not eyebrows here.
I know. I might have to get your bed.
So we already have all these shadows here that we did with the green and the layers over there. So now we want to paint the eyes, the actual eyes. And for that, remember when you have the eye drawn like this is going to be the darkest of all. And then the next darkest will be this part here. And then if you choose an eye color, let's do green. Here you put a lot of pigment. And then you just bring it down. And let the water bring the color down, but let the light come through the paper. When you do that and you just add the highlights with something, like a pencil, like a pen, white pen. Let me try. Here. That's too dark, so we need it to lighten up. And then you add, it's not working. And you have 3D eyes right here. Now we're going to do it in the actual painting.
So really quick, Danita, somebody's asking the outline of the eyes. It was just all done while you were doing the shadowing and the skin tone, correct?
Yes. We're going to work a little bit more on it because, like, for example, here, we haven't painted really much because that's one of the last steps, because we go from light to dark. And since this is the darkest part, this we leave until the end, but we already have all those here, those shadows over here is this.
Did that answer your question, Lenine?
Hi, you guys. It's Elena. How are you?
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I just want to say, oh my gosh, it already looks so amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Danita, the eyes, can you hold it up closer to the camera a little bit? So the one that you practice on, the one you practice on? Yeah. Hold that a little closer. Do you guys get a little more detail if she holds it closer? Does that help, Lenine? To see how she kind of created that. I mean, it really looks like an eyeball. Hi, Lisa. Would it help you to see her create the eye one more time? I know the eyes are like the most intimidating part of this, I feel like. But would it help you to see her create it one more time, Lenine? Yeah. Can you do it one more time, Danita? Just because the eyes are the part that really can blow the piece.
Yes, let me just bring it closer so you get a better view.
Okay. Lenine asked, was the darkest part of the eye still wet when you did the lighter part?
Here, because I was removing, but usually don't. Let's see. You have an eye that is more or less like this, so you see it better. And you have the upper lid and you have the lower lid, and then you have the eyebrow. This is going to be the darkest part of the whole thing. Next to this is going to be the darkest. And then this area here will be in shadow, because this casts a shadow over here. And this will be the lightest. You can see it better in someone that has blue or green eyes. Sometimes this looks almost transparent. In people like me that has brown eyes, the difference is not as much, but with people with blue or green eyes, it looks extremely different from here to here. So let me just pick a dark color.
That helps a lot, having it broken down like that. Did that help, Lenine, Lisa, Tracy? You guys have a treat having her do this like this for you. Being
Those
able
are my
to have
secrets.
I know, all to yourself. Do you want her to do the watercolor palette one more time for you to see, or can she go ahead and do it on the piece? Maybe she can go ahead and put it on the piece, and if you need another demonstration of the eye, she could do it again on the scratch paper, which is not scratch paper. That paper looks beautiful all on its own.
Thank you. Is a sampler.
Yeah. Love it.
Do we continue or do it here?
Yeah, they said go ahead, and I think they're good with you. Go ahead with the painting, or with your, yeah, with your girl. And if they're still needing more help with the eye, maybe you can do another eyeball for them.
Okay. So,
okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to choose 103 for the eye color. In watercolor, remember, we work light to dark. So I won't start with the darkest part. I will start dark, light. From here. If it's difficult for you to do that, you can just cover the entire thing. And then clean your brush. Clean. You just bring it down. If you bring a lot of pigment and you prefer a lighter, just take the tip of the paper. You can remove some. You let that dry, because if you add color to it, it will bleed. So I'm going to dry it. You can add a little bit more on top if you think that you need more depth. And you just let it there, you don't move it. And then I'm trying to mix a very dark color for the pupils. So maybe this one, maybe, because I don't have a black here. So I might need very dark brown. So 104 plus 97 again. I'm not using a lot of water because I want the darkest color that I could get. So I just mix dark ones and I put it there. This is when you want a thin brush for those details. And then again, I clean my brush. I'm going to try to make the eyelid from that. Trying to move that pigment just with the tip. And I go over that line. At this point, I already have many colors per mix here. And when I need a dark one, since these are the colors I'm working on, I just pick randomly. I just try to do a dark value quickly. And use it for the up eyelids. And then for the lower. The other part when you really need dark values is in the nostrils. So I put them there and here on the lips. And now again, I clean my brush and I remove the little bit of that dark one to the sides. And fill up, for example, here, I missed this part, so just trying to move the pigment that is already there. And now in the eyelid, so I have that shadow that I was talking about over here.
Can you pull your paper a little closer to the camera, Danita, so they can see up close what it looks like? Perfect. Wow.
See? And when you add the highlights in white, just like becomes alive. But that's the very last. Let me just try to move this, cover it with something. That's better, right?
Yes. Thank you. How's everyone doing?
The eyelid. Questions up to here?
Yeah, you added those eyes and it looks like a totally different painting.
Yeah, yeah, the eyes, I think, like break it or make it. Changes a lot. So, questions?
I'm not seeing any.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the nose because now that this is, oh, can you give me just a second, please?
And they asked to give them a minute too.
Sorry. Okay, so we were on the nose.
They said give us a minute. They're still working on the eyes, Danita.
Okay. Going to move this.
Do you have any classes coming up, Danita?
I have one that is going right now and it's painting portraits, but in acrylics.
Okay.
It's called,
Go ahead.
and it's called Alter Ego. And we go through all of these plus some other things like adding personal symbols and colors and stuff like that. And it's more like a mixed media class, but we cover the basics and everything. I think that if you're a beginner, it's so much easier to do it on acrylics because you can always go over it than when you use watercolors. There is one goal.
Can they still sign up for that class?
Yes.
Okay.
It's at jeanoliver.com.
Okay. Ken Oliver.
jeanoliver.com.
Okay.
And there you just search Alter Ego and you find it there.
It's Jean Oliver, Geanne Oliver. I believe that's how she spells it. Anyway, it's the Alter Ego class, and Danita has it on her Instagram.
Yes, I have it on Instagram and on Facebook. I have all the links there. And I have previews and everything. I don't know what this thing is falling. The same one that I used in the last class, but this time I don't know what is behaving like that. It's better. Is it better there?
That's fine. It's on her face right now.
Okay. So do we continue or are you still working on the eyes?
I love the color of her eyes.
Thank you, me too. I wish I have them like that. Like the sea.
They're called colored contacts, Danita.
But we look weird with them.
Yeah, a little weird.
Everybody has brown eyes here. It's weird to see color eyes.
Do you would it help you guys if she did another eyeball I love seeing her paint. So if you want her to, if it helps you to see her do another eyeball, let us know. I think they're all just working on the eyes. How is the alter ego class? Did it start yet?
Yeah, it started on the 26th, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not really sure when people doesn't ask questions. I'm not sure if I'm very good teacher or they didn't understand anything.
Yeah, right. Oh my God.
Can you hold your portrait up closer to the camera again so they could see the close-up of the eyes?
Sure. Is that okay?
Yeah, just hold it there for a second.
So all that you did it previously. We just painted this part and the lines. That's it.
Does that work for you, Lenine?
The other one.
Yes, that's good. Thank you so much, Danita.
You're welcome. So are we ready?
We got a little over an hour left. How are we on time, Danita?
Okay.
Yeah, Lisa said it's helpful to see it close up. Thank you.
You are.
Okay, Danita, your camera changed angles.
Lenine, it is definitely something to practice. I mean, creating the eyes in any medium is like the most daunting part, I think. Have you painted eyes before, Lenine, or drawn eyes before?
Is that okay now?
That looks good, Danita.
Okay.
Yes, you can see the whole picture now.
Perfect. So do we continue?
Let's go ahead and continue.
Okay, I'm going to use a little bit of that reddish mixture that we made for the lips and just go over the nose again because now it's too pale. You're going to find that a lot that you paint one area and the other one goes lighter. So you just add another layer on top. And it's bleeding, so I'm just going to pick up some of that.
I can't wait to see what you guys have created. It really was very amazing seeing the final pieces that people created from just the
Last time,
beginners last time.
It was.
And it really, like the way that Danita has the technique for removing the watercolor and things like that, it's something that takes practice. So I love hearing her talk about what she's doing and why she's doing it. Do you always have a tissue in your hand, Danita, when you're doing this?
Yes, in my other hand, because you never know. And watercolors move so quickly and dries, especially here, it dries so fast. That maybe the so now I'm just taking some of that pre-mixed colors that I have here until I make a brown that I like. I want a very light brown just to go over a little bit around the eyes again. Here we have the neck very forgotten. This is supposed to be darker than the rest. So don't forget to add some more color here. Little more red. The upper lip is always darker than the lower one. So remember that when you're adding color, add a little bit more on top, always.
Danita, you had talked about wanting them to have a true red because there isn't one in this set. I know, Lenine, you have the other watercolor kit. I believe Lisa does too. Tracy, I'm not sure. No, Tracy, you do too. You guys all have the watercolor set from Alyssa's class. And Danita was saying she would like to use that brighter red. Do you want them to get that, Danita?
They already talked about that.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Sorry.
If they have it, they are going to use it for the lips, the nose, and the cheeks. And if they don't, we're using a mixture here like the last time.
Okay. I think they all do. So
it will give you a more natural color if you use the red. So now it's more about the details. And there's a point dry. So the birds, if you like birds, you can do birds. If you like other motifs, you can do anything you like. these are just randomly painted with all the colors that we have in the palette. The nice thing about having a palette like this is that all the colors that you have here look good together. If you have a palette with like the other one that has all the colors, it's a little bit trickier to make it look nice and cohesive because you can mix almost any colors and you go towards the cool tones and the warm tones. And here they're already, that problem is solved for you. So you can just take any of the colors and just paint your birds. Again, if you don't like birds, you can add any other thing. The only thing that I suggest is try not to paint two on the same color together. To try to add variety. And what I do is that I take the first one and paint some randomly, and then the next one, and so until I paint them all. You can also, you can also paint them like we did here, adding two colors, or you can paint them like here. This one up top and one on the bottom. And this one, we painted one, and then on top we painted the other and let them mix. If you're already done, you can start in this. And if you have questions, you can ask while everybody finish.
So I was gonna trick you and hold up your painting at the end and show you that I finished. But
I know my painting.
Danita was so amazing.
And you were going to put unicorns, remember?
Yeah. I need
Have
to
you?
How would you do a little unicorn on her shirt? How do you paint a unicorn?
Like a horse?
Yeah, how do you paint a horse?
With a, oh, that's really difficult, really. But you can trace it.
That's true. I could trace one. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I know you don't do horses, do you? You mostly do
Not
forest.
really.
You do little forest animals.
Foxes, rabbits, yes.
Bunnies. Yeah.
Birds. Yeah. That's one of the lessons in my other class, the alter ego one.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you see something that is really beautiful and you try to replicate it, but it doesn't really speaks to you, or it's not you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look right. Yeah, but when you do you, it looks very authentic and more beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I love how the birds are, the way you do it, you're doing the same shape, but they all come out so different.
Yeah, it's the colors and the texture. And then if you add a little bit of other color on top, it mixes there.
Yeah.
Gives it a really cool effect.
Well, I didn't bring my piece with me because I'm at my mom's now, but it's in the hall. They framed it and everything. I happen to have 12 by 12 frames, so it looks really pretty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How's the
Hey, sorry, your question. What was your question, Danny? Sorry, my internet is not great here. Can you hear me? Sorry, can you hear me?
hello?
Yeah,
Yep, your camera got changed. Your camera angle got changed again.
I think it is disconnected. Hold on.
There it goes.
There it goes. There it is. Oh,
Perfect. Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
sorry, Danita.
No, I'm sorry. I don't know what's with this
I
thing.
know. It's doing its own thing. What was the question? You said, how is? I missed the question, Danita. You said, how is?
How's Devin?
Oh, sorry.
That if he was with you.
My internet cut out. Yes, he is better now. He had too much sugar at the birthday party today, and he woke up from his nap like losing his mind. I think he wanted more sugar.
I think so.
Oh my gosh. I haven't seen him like that, really. It's probably the most sugar he's had. You know, like there's nobody doing birthday parties for the last year. So now his my friend had a birthday party with just like 5 kids, you know, at the park. But there was cupcakes. Hi, baby. There was cupcakes and a piñata and juice boxes, and I don't know. We let him have all of it. I think it was a mistake.
At my children's school, if somebody is somebody's birthday and they bring cupcakes and stuff like that, they don't let them have them until the end. They give your kid with your bag of candy and the cupcakes and everything, and it's your problem.
And they send them home. Yep.
Yeah.
They're like, here's your kid, here's some sugar.
That's good. Yeah.
Yep.
They're smart.
Yep.
Okay, how are we doing? Are there questions?
No, not so far. Tracy says good enough.
I can't wait to see it, Tracy.
Yay.
Danny, I have another package in the mail coming to you.
Yay. I ate my last chocolate yesterday.
Okay.
Need a refill.
We'll fill you back up. Don't worry. Yeah, if anybody needs to get rid of chocolate, just send it to Danita.
Yes. It's poison to you, bad for you.
Yeah.
Good for me.
For you.
Yes. But for your teeth.
I know. That's another challenge, taking care of a toddler's teeth. He hates having his toothbrush.
toddler, teenager, child. It's the never-ending fight
against tooth decay.
Yeah, and brushing their teeth. I don't know what they have against it.
They hate it.
Yeah.
Did anyone have a toddler that liked having their teeth brushed? I mean, I'm so jealous if you do.
I don't think that's possible.
Probably not. Danny, did you take any of the classes, the art venture classes? Did you log in on any of them?
Not yet. I was telling Jamie that I've been doing ceramics and my hands get really sticky, so I don't even grab my phone. I get away from everything.
I love that you just delved into this new medium and have embraced it so completely.
And by the time that I realized, and then there's so many steps, I have very little patience. I don't know how I make them, because you have to knead the clay and then make the piece, and that takes several steps, and then let it dry. And then when it's dry, it can break. And then when you put it in the kiln, it can break. And then when you take it out, it can break. And then you paint it and you glaze it, and many things can go wrong in that step. And then finally you get the piece. But the reward of seeing the surprise that you get, because you never get what you're expecting. Very different, because it's a chemical and physical reaction in the oven. It's, I don't know, in Fahrenheit, but it's about 1000 degrees Celsius. So what goes in there once you start it is non-stopping. So whatever happens, and you have to live with that. So it teaches you a lot of life lessons, more than art.
I love that. What a great analogy. And you know what?
Right.
Accepting what comes out.
Yeah.
Is it hard to do sometimes? Like when it comes out, are you like, okay, that's not it, all what I wanted, but now I'm stuck with it? Like, do you ever feel disappointed?
Yes. But you also get surprises like, whoa, this is so amazing, so much better than you were expecting. So you get both. It's a lot like life, really. You never know. And sometimes the things that you were less expecting are the better. And sometimes the things that are exactly like you want them are like, oh, okay.
Yes,
not that. How are you doing?
Sorry, I'm fighting with Devin for bandwidth because he's on his iPad, and
Me too.
that's why my internet keeps going in and out. I think my mom's on hers, Devin's on his. Anyway,
the same here.
It's okay. It's okay, Mom. It's all right. Yeah, how is everyone doing? I'd love to know. Jamie, did you paint?
I did not paint today.
I would call you a chicken, but
I know you're busy.
Yep. Just didn't have time to get everything together and set up, you know?
Yeah. As you were hightailing it down here from LA today. So you didn't paint her shirt? I thought you did, Denny.
No, first we paint all the birds and then we put water on top of the birds and let them bleed. That's what you get. Yeah.
Okay.
And you get all those colors bleeding onto the shirt. We just paint the color.
Okay.
But first I want to add a little bit more color to the hair. So I'm mixing darker colors. The same ones, the 97 plus the 104 and the 105 plus the 104.
And see you that Sunday.
So you're doing wet on dry, just adding some more color into the hair, correct, Danita?
Yes, correct. And trying to leave some spaces unpainted. Remember that we removed some of it with a clean brush. I just wanted to make it darker, especially at the bottom. At the very end, we are going to do a little bit of dry on dry. Once everything is done, some hair strands, just to give it some movement. But now I just want it to be darker. Like so. And I'm going to check if this is already dry. I hope so. Yes. And just to darken the upper lip. And a little bit here. This is more like refining everything. When you think that it misses a little bit, like here, it needs a little bit darker color. Just start checking everything and seeing where it misses something. Like here, maybe. And there for the eyebrows. Are you ready for the eyebrows?
Go for it, Danita.
Okay. I'm using the same hair color. And we're going to do a dry on dry technique. So I just added, without water, I added some of that pigment. I'm just going to go up like this. You already have them there because you trace them. So just going over. And then the other one. If you have trouble like making your hand still, you can put your little finger somewhere that is dry, like this. And then your hand won't shake anymore. Ta-da. Just going to darken a bit the eyelids. And here, maybe here. And again, this part, that should be the darkest. And don't forget this tiny part here. That will be the shadow of the clothes. And now you can paint the color, any color you like. Again, any color will work. So whatever you like, just paint it. With a little water, I'm going to make them blend. It's almost ready. At this stage, it's just details that you see like, okay, this is too light. So I'm just add a little bit of color here. And then here. Sometimes it's good to get away of it for a bit, look at other stuff and then come back and see it again. And sometimes the thing that weren't working just kind of pop at you. So are we good up to here? Questions?
It's so amazing watching it come to life as you keep adding the layers on it. I didn't realize she was missing her eyebrows. That helped a lot.
It does. Actually, it's missing a part here. So.
Next time I call you to chat, I want you to just be painting so I can watch you while we talk. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Thank you so much. Yours will be 2.
My unicorn.
Yeah. So questions up to here? How's everybody?
There's no comments so far. I think everybody's busy painting their birds and finishing up here.
How are we on time?
You have 35 minutes.
Okay. We're almost done at this stage. So next we are going to do the background, the shirt, and then the last details. And for the background, I'm going to paint a sky, and you need a lot of water. Imagine you have to paint everything, but you can do this 2 ways. You can do it wet on wet again, paint everything and add the blue. Or you can mix the blue and paint the whole thing. Or you can add a mixture of blue with water, paint everything, and add a little bit more blue in certain areas so they look like clouds. So that will need a lot of water. I like the hair to bleed.
Sorry, everybody. We must be having some technical difficulties. How's everybody doing? We're still doing okay? Still
Did we
doing
read-
good. Okay, Tracy. That's good. We'll just wait for Danita to come back on.
There she is.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. It happens.
Does that look right?
Everyone's still doing some birds. Yes, that does look right. Correct.
Okay.
So, before you continue on, the last part I heard was you were about to start the background. So you have your really watered down blue. And how
Yeah.
did you start that? Did you wet the paper first? Can you go through that again?
Okay. You can do it 3 ways. You can start wetting the paper with just clean water and adding blue on top. You can make a very light mixture of blue like I did. And then on top of that, adding some stripes of blue with a more concentrated color that will give you those like clouds. And I was telling that here is really dry. So by the time I go here, this is already dried. So I have to work in layers. And that I like this effect when this bleeds and all the birds too. So I make sure to touch them with the damp brush. And I even encourage them to bleed. If you don't like that effect, you prefer a very hard edge, then make sure that you go around and you end up with an edge like this. So that's totally up to you. Like here, I put water on this, on the hair, and trying to let it bleed. See that? It's already moving. And then in this part, I just add pure pigment. Because it is wet, it will bleed very softly.
Jamie, is Danita spotlighted? Because I only see her small.
Yes, she is spotlit.
Okay.
You might be in
Oh,
gallery.
there it is. There it is. Never mind. I got it. Thank you. I love watching watercolor spread.
Oh, me too. It's very relaxing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like ceramics that you cannot control them. You just tell them more or less what to do.
Yeah.
So here, be very careful because you don't want that part to bleed. So just go around it and that's it. Same with this part here.
Yeah, you don't want her neck bleeding.
But the hair, it's okay. And here on the birds, you can put water on top, but without moving the brush. And eventually they will bleed because there's a lot of color there. And the rest, I'm filling it with the very light blue. I call that light blue. But there's clean water. This clean water and this blue. Remember that I say don't use a lot of water here. Well, here you need to use a lot of water, but not to make it pool, but enough to make it bleed. You have to try it on your own because depending on the water, whether it will give you different results. And here you just add clean water, the same that here. Some are starting to bleed, some don't want. So you will get different results depending on how much pigment you added and the color.
Can you hold up the original or a painting or a finished painting, Danita?
Darn, we lost her again.
It happens.
Can you pause the video?
Danita, your camera is off. Can you re-angle? There we go. Oh, there it is.
Yep. Okay. Sorry again, I don't know what is happening. It was all right.
Internet happens.
I know. And it always happens when you less want it.
Right?
Yeah. So I don't know at what time it stopped.
You are adding water to the birds.
Okay. So I just added water, and when there were some that didn't bleed, so I added a little bit more pigment on top just to encourage them. And then I started adding a little bit more brown here because it didn't bleed. I don't know why.
So you added water or you added pigment?
There was water here.
Okay.
So I added pigment a little bit more, just like on the birds, just to make it move a little bit. And that's all I did. So now I'm just going to add tiny details when I think it needs a little bit more color. It's almost done, I will say. I need this to dry to add some hair strands. And I might add a little bit of shadow here. More of the brown. It's very transparent and very diluted. But since we already have so many colors below, it looks darker. At this stage, try to add just very light washes of color, because we already have like what, 6 layers or more. So every time that you add, you prevent the light to go through all the layers, and it will look darker and darker, even if it doesn't look dark on your palette.
How is everybody doing? Is everybody?
Excuse me?
I said, how is everybody doing? Are you good on your birds, you guys? Have you started on your background? How are we looking? Does anybody want to show their piece off yet? So Terry says she's doing the back, or Tracy says she's doing the background.
Okay.
That's good.
Very
Do you have the original, Danita, that you can hold up and show us how they compare? That's gorgeous.
Thank you. That's the one that we made in the previous class, I think.
So did you add white to those?
Yes, that's the very last step.
Okay.
Just for the highlights. Yes.
Gotcha.
That will change a lot the eyes. You'll see. If you don't have a white pen, white acrylic, white wash, or what else?
The no bleed white.
Excuse me?
I said the no bleed white.
Any white, you just needed to paint on that. I have a lot of whites here. I have the Uniball. Almost every crafter has this one.
Everybody got a Marvy white gel pen in their goodie bag.
Yeah, with a gel pen, I have this one, graphic. I've tried a lot because some are very opaque and some are not. And my favorite is the Uniball or the Posca, but sometimes they're too thick. So I've been trying to find another one. Is the Marvy thin or thick?
I'll send you a Marvy so you can try it. I think it's more on the thinner side.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say too.
Yeah, because all the wood ones are very thick, and sometimes you just need a tiny dot and you get a huge one.
Yeah, I think it's less opaque than the Signo, than the Uniball.
So let's see. This one will do. You can use this, the one you have. If you have white paint or gesso, anything that is opaque, even a pencil, color pencil, a white one, if it's really opaque, because we just need some dots here and there. So if you don't have one and you want to paint like really purist, usually you have to let those whites and paint around, but they're very tiny and I find it really hard to do. And like there's no really the need to go through all the trouble when you can just add a dot here, or you can use masking fluid and then at the end just remove it and you end up with the white there, but a white pen will do. Before adding the white, I just want to add some hair strands. I'm going to mix the dark color because I almost don't have any. This is going to be dry on dry. And I'm just to add some strands. Can you see it well?
Sorry, you guys, it looks like she's having some internet issues again. Lenine says she's stopping before you ruin it. Well, sometimes you just have to stop and then go back to it, you guys. So it's totally fine to stop and let it dry and step back and take a look. Because, you know, like she was saying, that the color does change once it's dry. I'm glad that you're happy with the first attempt at it. That's absolutely amazing. And the fact that you even tried it is just goes above and beyond. So if you're trying something that's outside of your comfort zone, it's definitely going to be hard the first time. You know, trying to get those eyes exactly is the hardest thing ever, let me tell you. So I know
I
I have a
think-
girlfriend who practiced for 2 hours on the eyes and the nose to get those
Oh.
correct.
Shoot, thank
Yeah. So let's see. Get gallery view here. Let's see if I'm gonna pause the recording.
So I think that what you mean is me adding the strands of hair.
Yes.
So I just mix the dark one that we have been using. And actually I just mix everything that was left on my palette to make a dark. And I just hold my brush like this, more like a pencil, not like that. And I just went over and tried to draw some lines to simulate some hair strands like this. Just a few, so it doesn't look like she has a helmet on. Some here and some here. That's all I did.
Did you make 2 of them?
Okay, we lost Danita again. Here we go. So we stopped and you had just finished the hair strands and you were
Okay.
going on from there.
That's it. And then we add the tiny details with the white. So that's a dot here. And I like to do one here and one here. So they look symmetrical. And then one in the lower part and one here. And that changed the eyes a lot. I think so. A tiny dot on the nose. And maybe a little bit here on the lips.
Where on the lips? Ah, I didn't do that.
And that makes a huge difference.
Can you
the
show a
whole thing.
close up of the eyes and the lips again where you put the white dots?
Here. That's the left. That's the right.
Yeah.
And did you do the nose too or just the lip?
No, she didn't.
That's just a tiny,
Tiny,
Let's see.
tiny.
yeah.
Okay.
That one was already there, so I just put
Oh.
one dot. And this like a U shape,
Mm.
and that's it.
Those little white dots just bring everything to life.
Yeah, it's amazing. They're so tiny, but they changed the whole thing.
Oh, pen work.
Can you hear me?
Does anyone want to come on and show their piece? I'm dying to see.
Me too.
All right, Tracy.
Okay, you can turn on your camera and unmute, Tracy.
Okay.
Let's see what you got.
One thing I like to do, and it's something I have not done before, is the first one is to be more of a practice. So I wanted to be sure I saw my lines. So ignore the dark lines. As I'll say, and of course it's already getting dark here. I don't know if this is going to work, but see if I turn my,
Beautiful, Tracy.
well,
Hold it closer, Tracy. It looks amazing.
I
I
did.
can see it. Oh,
I made a mess on the bottom as I was dripping the water on my birds. I got my hands in it and didn't realize it.
I like it.
Thank you.
That was the effect that I was going for here, actually.
Well,
You did it better.
I will say, yeah, if you look closely down here, you're going to see every color of every bird smeared across the bottom where I got my hand, got the backside of my hand in it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, your portrait looks so good.
I did do more of a brownish hair color because that's pretty much my hair color, my son's hair color, and my granddaughter's hair color. So I wanted to do more of a brown, so I did that.
That's more you.
Yep, more me.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you. It was fun, Danita. I learned a lot.
Thank you.
Most of the portraits I've done in the last 10 years since I've done both acrylic and watercolor has been more of a whimsical face. So this was very good for me to do more of a traditional face.
Oh, I'm glad.
I
used to work on whimsical too.
Yeah.
But there's a point when you want more.
Yeah,
right?
True. That is very true. I'm ready to retire so I can spend all my hours playing instead of working.
Oh, that's really nice. You'll see in a year from now the difference that will make.
Exactly. Now that I have the little bits and pieces from taking this class, I can just learn from that as I go along. Now now there's 2 recordings, so I can go and listen to both recordings to pick up pieces also.
Yes.
So, thank you for your time. It is so appreciated, and you are an awesome teacher. It's
thank you so much.
It's like, no, well, I know why no one has questions, because you explain everything so well.
Oh, I hope it's that. A teacher used to say, you don't have questions because you understood everything or you didn't understand anything. So
exactly.
I hope it's because you understood.
I understood. I did understand.
I'm so glad.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to come on?
Lanine said she was ready to share.
Ready to
I'm
share.
ready to see Lanine's. Lisa, are you going to show us yours? I'm so glad you were on.
Sorry, did I say that on with mute off?
Okay, Lenine, you can turn your camera on now. There, okay, now you need to unmute. There we go. Okay, now I can. There you are. Oh my goodness, look at that.
Did she turn out cool?
You turned out gorgeous. Look at
I'm
those.
so happy with her.
I'm so glad to hear that.
I think, do you need to see that?
Spotlighted, Jamie. Is she spotlighted, Lenine? Did you spotlight her? Okay, I don't know why it's bouncing back and forth for me. Okay.
I see Elena now in the screen. Anyway, I think that I got this eyebrow too far over. It needs to be over more, but it's okay the way it is. This one here is too far over.
What do you think, Danita?
I
Tracy?
can see it. I see you, Jamie.
You can see me? Okay. Are you on? Let me see. What if I do that? Can
I
you
see Elena.
That's very strange because you guys are both spotlit. Is your view on speaker view?
Oh, let's see.
On gallery?
You know what? I'm going to change it.
Yeah, we could change it so we can see your face. That would be totally fine.
It feels weird to be, okay. Now I see, yes.
Do you see Lenine's?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So she's asking about that left eyebrow.
This
What do
one.
you think? That one
Too
right
far
there.
to the middle.
Just a tiny bit. It's actually, your eyebrows are supposed to start where your nostrils end.
Yeah. That one
So-
went just a little bit too far over.
Yeah, but we're all different. What you might do to, instead of correcting this one, you might want to go a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, in with the other one, and that's it.
But anyway, I'm really happy with how it turned out.
I love it. I'm
I
really
love
proud of
it,
you.
Lenine. Her eyes are so bright. I mean, she's like Judy Garland or something. Love it. Love it.
I'm
Danny,
so happy with my
these are
first
just-
portrait.
Really?
First time watercoloring?
Yes, well, except for the flower class, this is my first time doing anything like this.
It's amazing.
Great job, everybody.
It is really
Thank you for
amazing.
being such a great teacher.
Oh, thank you.
Lenine says, Tracy says, great job, Lenine.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, now turn off.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Yeah.
still looking at it. I'm still looking at it. Just kidding. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, Lenine. Congratulations.
I almost don't believe you. That is the first time.
It
I know,
is.
that's how I feel.
But I have played in like frosting and other things, but not in paint.
It is amazing what you did.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. So I have Terry here who would like to show off her second attempt at your work. Let's see. She's coming over. Give her a second. Do you want to come on camera too?
So I was not happy with, well, I was very happy with my first attempt, but there were some things that I wasn't happy with. So I took the time and did a study of eyeballs and then the nose
Oh,
and tried to get more of a feel for how that would work. And so then the second attempt, I'm really, really pleased with.
Oh my God, Terrietta, that is amazing. Your first one looked so much like Becca, but this one looks so much like Becca too.
Well, yes, and Becca has claimed it. So I actually went to Michael's, and because all of you have done such an amazing job, mainly because we had an amazing teacher, Michael's has these 12 by 12 shadow box frames available online. And I opened them up, and you can reverse the glass to make it like a regular frame. So these are very inexpensive, and they're 12 by 12. Otherwise, it's super expensive to try and frame our artwork. So since they come in a 2-pack, that just means, Danita, you might need to teach a second class.
I might.
So that we can utilize the frames, not because we totally enjoy your class and you're an amazing teacher. It's just because we're being budget conscious.
Oh my God, Terrietta, that came out so beautiful. I love it. She's stunning, stunning.
It just goes to show you how much it helps to just keep painting, keep doing it.
What were you going to say, Danita?
That making those studies, the nose and the mouth and the eyes, is really good idea.
Yeah, it helped tremendously.
Lenine says awesome.
Well, hers was awesome too.
Right?
Totally awesome.
And of course, I left mine in LA, so I will post eventually when I finally get that. And Tracy says, so true, practice makes perfect. That is definitely true. And how about Lisa? Did you want to come on and show your work, Lisa? Oh, not able to share. Okay, that's not a problem. Okay, does anybody have any more questions?
Danita, thank you so much for doing this. I mean, this was like a private class with Danita. I mean, seriously, and I am so intimidated by it, but I am going to try it, I promise. And I have a package in the mail coming for you, so more than just chocolate too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danita. Thanks, Jamie, for being an awesome moderator. Thanks, everyone, for playing.
Here we go, Mommy.
Thank
And Danita, yeah, how do you tear the paper off the block without tearing the paper?
That's a good one.
Say hi?
We make the last class.
You wanna say
If
hi?
you have something like this, a palette knife or a knife or ruler that is sharp, let me just, you have one side that is unglued and one that is glued. You just put it there and slowly, oops.
Yeah, how do you not do that?
Yeah, don't do that. You use your both hands, not like me, and you just slowly go all over it. And it will feel right. Yeah.
So you use one hand to control the paper and one hand to control the palette knife or X-Acto knife.
That's right.
Okay, not hold the phone. Got it. Okay, well, I think that is it. Thank you, Lenine, for your questions. Thank you, Lisa, Tracy, everybody for watching. We had an amazing class. Oh my goodness, I can't thank you enough, Danita. I am going to rewatch this class and watch those eyes again, and I'm going to be almost as good as you. I will get there. I will get there, but
you totally will, Jamie.
Keep teaching, and everybody take a look at Danita's classes that she does offer. Look her up on, oh, what are you on? You're on Instagram, Facebook. Where do you have your own page, right, Danita?
Everything is Danita Art. So you just Google me and find me.
Find her.
She has a website. She has a website too.
Yes, I'm sure people have talked about her Frida classes that she has on her website. So please, if you had a great time, take a look at all of the classes that she offers. Once again, thank you so much, Danita, for everything that you've done for Art Venture and everything that you've done today. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Take care and have a great Saturday. And everybody else, we will see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.